Why do you doubt yourself?
Because my partner didn't see them. He didn't believe them. And usually he believes without question.
Maybe they weren't meant for him to see. Maybe they were only meant for you.
Is that possible?
With the Lord, anything is possible. Perhaps you saw these things because you needed to.
To find my way back?
Sometimes we must come full circle to find the truth. Why does that surprise you?
Mostly it just makes me afraid.
Afraid?
Afraid that God is speaking. But that no one's listening.
Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. I'm your host, Chex, and joining me as always is Luke. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm doing good. I don't know how to say that. Do you ever just sort of get an idea, you go, I'll just come up with it and on the fly,
Yeah.
and then you're like, nah.
I wonder would you think you'd be any good at improv?
No, probably not.
I'd like to think I'd be good at improv, but then I feel like I'm better at I can go with the flow when we're out and we're just having a laugh and we're talking about, because a lot of our comedy when we're out with friends is just talking about random scenarios and then running with it.
It's basically what we do here. Whenever an idea pops up and we just start talking about it, that's it.
Yeah, and it's like a runaway train, isn't it? We'll have one funny little crazy little idea, this just doesn't make any sense, and we run with it and we take it as far as we can go, and that's kind of our comedy type of comedy.
Basically,
what makes us laugh. So I feel like that's half of what improv is, but then I feel like a lot of what improv is as well is keying in for the person opposite you. I don't know.
And also it's presenting to an audience as well, which I know you've struggled with in the past.
I do struggle with. I don't know. Yeah, I think if I'm up on stage, then it's so weird. I can literally be in a group of people. I can have 20 people around me in a pub or a bar or a club or anything like that, and I can tell stories and I can do weird actions or make people laugh. That's not a problem. Soon as I'm up in the limelight and everyone's silent, beads of sweat on the forehead, the lot.
I reckon when you're entertaining a group, but there's no pressure on you to entertain them. It's a lot more liberating. Whereas all of a sudden, if you're okay, you have to entertain us, it's the pressure's on then.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. I see that. You mentioned to me the other day that you're toying around with the speech that you're going to give at my wedding.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really curious to see what this is.
Oh, I can't tell you anything.
I know you can't.
This is the worst radio ever because I can't tell you anything.
I know. I'm sure we'll tell everyone once the day happens.
Yeah.
Which is
it's not
6 weeks.
I know.
It's come out so quick.
That's why this idea came about, because me and Taz realised, we've actually got to do something pretty quick. But yeah,
that's going to be fun.
Shithole. Sorry, we
Good radio.
We touched butts there. A bit intense, to be honest, for this, but
so X-Files. What did you think of this week's? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, we're going straight into it.
Well, no, we can go. Shall we do it properly?
No.
This is so distracting this week. Okay, we're going to roll with it. Let's talk about X-Files.
Okay.
So this week we'll be looking at Season 3, Episode 11, titled Revelations. I kind of guessed this is going to be a religious one.
I was listening back to the edit and and we were saying, it might be a religious one. I was like, yeah, we nailed it. But then when I looked back, I was like,
it's pretty simple.
Kind of obvious,
yeah. What else could it have been apart from maybe Mulder sort of reveals he's got 10 kids or something like that.
That would be right. There's a revelation in the next episode which shocked me more. And we'll get to that. This is a teaser for next week, but that did blow my mind away, and I shouldn't tap the table. I've just realised. That's a big, massive spike just appears.
So yeah, this aired on December 15th, 1995. It was written by Kim Newton and directed by David Nutter. And I've actually, when I was putting my notes together, I actually found that this is David Nutter's last episode.
It was.
Yeah, and are you going to get all sour about this because I've stolen one of your notes?
No.
So yeah, David Nutter, I mean, he's been a staple of the show from day one, pretty much.
It will be weird to see episodes not directed by him, to be honest. Because, yeah, I mean, this is like, what, 3 series in?
I don't know why, but I always assumed David Nutter would just be there till the end.
But, yeah, I mean, the only thing that he seems to have done that with is Game of Thrones, I think. Because he's renowned as, like, somebody who comes in, does the first few bits of a series, and then leaves it to whoever.
I suppose it's such a huge commitment. I mean, to be honest, I couldn't give you the stats on how many people stay with a show all the way through. Like, you have different writers in at all different stages of most long-running shows. So yeah, I don't know why. I guess I just think of his name as synonymous with this show. But yeah, we'll get straight into the episode then. So we start off in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. And it's just the intro's just like this nice little one-shot story of this priest. He's giving this sort of sermon, I suppose you'd call it. Oh, go on.
I thought this guy was going to be a big part to the story.
Yeah, he definitely isn't.
He's the guy from Full Metal Jacket, the staff sergeant, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? Even now, I don't think I could pick him out in the lineup.
Yeah, he's basically like one of the main characters in that film. Like a bit.
I remember the character. I just don't remember his face at all.
So when I saw him, I was like, oh, like this guy in like big Hollywood actor. I thought this guy's going to be a big deal. No. He's in it for about 3 minutes. Yeah. He's giving this sermon. It's just the usual tropes that you usually get with all these sermons. It's talking about the importance of faith and to have faith and to keep faith. Especially in such a cynical world. And as he's going through, he holds his hands up, clenched fists, and blood starts dripping from his hands. He's kind of basically gives it as proof that his word is correct. Like, he's telling the truth. It's not just make believe. It's not, because he does mention about a kid that doesn't believe, doesn't he? I wrote down in this part tomato sauce packets, thinking, it'll be funny if it did turn out that he did actually. They do actually say later on he used tomato ketchup, and I was like, oh, he did. Yeah. Like he actually did that.
It is fake, but we don't find out just yet.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Guys.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We can go along with it. He starts bleeding from his hand. As you can imagine, everyone at the church is amazed by this because. I forget the word they keep using, but what word is it that when you can have...
Oh, stigmata.
Yeah, that's it. It's in my notes later on. But it's a big deal. Like, it's almost proof of God, or a disciple of God.
The only reason I remember that word is there was a film that came out called Stigmata. I've never seen it, but I remember the DVD cover, because it was like one of the first DVD covers I ever saw.
Oh, okay.
And it was just...
Who was in it?
I have no idea. I literally knew nothing about this film other than it's called Stigmata.
that I was like, word's burned into your head.
That's a badass. When I was like 8, I was like, that's a badass cover. I don't even know what. It could be terrible. It could be like, I don't know.
I always remember the first ever DVD I watched, and it was one of those moments. I know it sounds so cliche, but it was one of those moments where my parents bought the DVD player home, and it was so cool. We had a DVD player, and they had one DVD, and we all sat around and watched it. And it was do you remember The Haunting?
Yeah.
That was the first DVD we ever watched. Liam Neeson's in it, I think. Owen Wilson as well.
Yeah, it's always some kind of like violent thing that you watch as your first DVD. The first DVD I watched was Blade.
Oh, nice. That's a good one to watch.
That was an awesome film. I mean, it's not really, but I love it like for that reason.
I remember watching it and being, like, all of us as a family being amazed that we could just skip scenes.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like such a minute deal, but back in the day when it first came out, that was huge, wasn't it? You could just go back to the beginning of the film.
Yeah, and not have to sit there for 20 minutes rewinding the tape. Yeah.
So good.
It's one of those things, like, you describe these things, and we're going to sound, like, ridiculous now, but, like, you describe these things to, like, younger people, and it just, like, they just do not understand. No. And I understand there's probably people older than us who are thinking, like, You've got like, you grew up with the internet from like day dot, Well, not to a degree.
Nah, I was going to say, yeah. I didn't get the internet until like, what, 14, 15?
2000 was when I first had the internet. Well, it's when I first had a computer.
Oh God, you were much earlier than me then.
Yeah. I remember because we bought it from a company that doesn't exist anymore called Time Computers.
Nice.
It's called a Time Machine. I was like, yes! But yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. If you Google it now, you actually find the website for Time is like one of those old shitty websites because they never took it down.
Yeah.
It's like, like when you go on Space Jam, the website. Yeah.
Going massively off on a tangent.
Yeah.
When did podcasts become popular?
I feel like one of the most popular ones early on was Ricky Gervais, wasn't it?
Yeah, he really pioneered the podcast genre.
That was like
a radio show, though, wasn't it?
It was the XFM thing was the first thing he did, but then like he went into podcasting after that, and it was like when iTunes was like kicking off. It was like it must have been like 2006, maybe. I think, something like that. So it's been quite a while, but now, we've got a podcast now. Literally everyone has a podcast.
It's one of the most popular forms of medium now, I'd say. Like, I think that it's because it's so accessible. Like, you don't need a lot to start your own podcast. And it's a great creative outsource. Like, I would recommend this to anybody because it is just great just to get around with people that you share interests with and just have a chat. And if people enjoy it, then they can join in as much as they want. Do you know what I mean? I think that's great. Like I love, similar to this podcast, I love listening to podcasts along with shows. It's just one of my things. I really do enjoy it. And I always do, when I listen to it, and I always think, oh, this is really good. And I always enjoy it. And it's weird to think that I'm one of those, and people are thinking that about our podcast. Do you know what I mean? It's strange. But I suppose it's just, that's a great thing about podcasts. Yeah, everyone's on an equal footing, pretty much.
From like just a listener perspective as well, like it's just good to have that many different, because you can literally find a podcast about anything, like absolutely anything. And like beforehand, like with radio shows and stuff like that, if you wanted to listen to someone on the radio, it's usually either some music and the talk show would be a bit like, what are you doing? Where are you driving to? It's just like, bullshit stuff. Whereas now you can, like, I listen to lore and stuff like that, and I'm learning history, and I'm learning like these different stories, and I'm like, wow, this is actually like interesting stuff that I care about. So
it puts it into your own hands, doesn't
exactly,
it? What you do listen to, which can only be good. But anyway, mind the digression. After this sermon is completed, we see a guy come into the back where the priest is sort of getting himself ready. Or getting himself unready, cleaning up after.
I like how he has a vanity mirror.
I know, like a star. Well, I suppose he's put on a performance. I suppose it's the same thing. He tells him that the sermon really touched him, and he puts his hand like really sort of anonymously on his shoulder. Anonymously? No, that's not the word. What am I thinking of? Ominously, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Who's that?
To be fair, he didn't know him.
That's right. It was anonymous.
It was anonymous. And then he attacks him and just chokes him out. But as he's choking him, under his finger starts burning and it just looks like his throat's on fire. Yeah. And then he leaves him for dead. Yeah. And we go into the titles.
I thought we were going to get a demon episode with this because, like, the burning and stuff like that. And I mean,
to an extent,
yeah. It's difficult to sort of say with this one because, again, they tend to do this with religious episodes. They tend to be very obscure, like in what's actually going on. We just know it's a religious thing that's happening. Yeah. So we don't really get that explained, but my assumption is that he's some kind of like evil entity, I guess. Yeah.
And there's I feel like, again, I think the problem is because I'm watching it at the moment, this is all my reference points. Like, I know before recording, I've spoke to you about it a few times, but I'm watching a show at the moment, I think I mentioned on the podcast before, called The Leftovers, and that's very religious themed in it. I think the reason why they do that in shows like this, especially with when it's dealing with religious content, is they always leave it open for a logical point of view, or an agnostic point of view, or even an atheist point of view. And the reason why they do that is you can look at it both ways, especially with stuff like this, where there's for example, in The Leftovers, a lot of things happened, and coincidences just pile up, to the point where you're watching it and you're like, this is definitely supernatural, this is definitely something religious, this is definitely something to do with God. And then the showrunner, Damon Lindelof, came out and said, actually, we're not on either side of the fence, this can be taken one way or the other. And when asked about the coincidences, he cited the fact that the Big Bang and the fact that there's intelligent life on Earth is astronomical odds. If you believe that the Big Bang could happen and you believe that intelligent life could just miraculously appear on Earth, then why have you got a problem with these 4 coincidences on a TV show? And it's really interesting to think of, like, oh, actually, that kind of makes sense. Like, why would you have a problem with that? And it's really interesting point of view, but it does relate back to this, where they do try and just keep that sort of ambiguity so that both sides can enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? There's always that logical side of it. I just find it quite interesting.
It reminded me of the Always Sunny bit with the argument for where he's saying why God could exist and stuff like that, because he's making the point that science doesn't get everything right.
Science. What's the argument?
I just like the bit at the end where he's asking him if he's poured over all the data himself, and he's like, no. Oh, so you take it on faith that these men who wrote this book, it's like, he's got a point.
He's got a
point.
Yeah. Mulder and Scully start investigating the case, as you would imagine. And Mulder does point out that he's actually a fake stigmatic. He rips open his shirt to show like the sort of, I don't know what you call it, like this weird blood dispenser that he's got on, and that pours fake blood out to sort of to the awe of the crowd. He does mention that there's been multiple people, fake stigmatics, that have been killed over the past 3 years, internationally. And what he does mention is that there's usually, if you follow religion, 12 stigmatics on the Earth at any one time. And 11 have been killed in the last 3 years.
I've never heard that before. I've heard of, like, the stigmatics and stuff like that, but I didn't know there was like a set number of, like, what the Bible says, or I don't know if it is the Bible in this case, but that it says that there's that many on Earth. It's strange.
To be honest with you, I didn't know a lot about stigmatics before this episode, and it's not something I've researched in. But what I found interesting was, does that mean... Okay, we're jumping ahead, but if the boy's a real stigmatic person, does that mean there's 11 more on the world somewhere? Because surely he doesn't count as the 12th, and that's that. If the other 11 were fake.
I think it's... Well, I don't know. It's sort of implied that they still count. They're just false prophets, aren't they, or something like that.
But surely there's more than 12. Fake prophets, you know what I mean? Or false prophets.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. But anyway, so 11 have died, so Mulder thinks that naturally there's probably going to be one in this area, a 12th prophet that's in danger. And meanwhile, we see at an elementary school in Ohio that a boy, Kevin, starts bleeding from the palm of his hands as he's on a chalk, as he goes to the chalkboard. The teachers are
dick.
She's awful. Yeah. She's awful. Just takes the mick out of him right in front of everybody. Proper puts him down.
This is some 90s schooling.
I know,
Get up then, you idiot.
Basically, just like having a go at him. Like, I don't know. Like, what did he do? He just laughed. I don't know. He didn't do anything.
I can't remember what he did, but they basically was like, okay, you come up to and do it. I'm trying to think if that's ever happened to one of us. Like, I can't remember.
Probably. In primary school, I know it probably happened.
What's your biggest win over a teacher? Like, where they've tried to call you out on something like that, and I
don't think I have one, mate. What's yours?
I remember once in an English class, I came in late, and so the teacher was like, oh, you don't think you can turn up on time for this? Okay, so we're talking about this and the other. Can you tell us what a seraph is? And I was like, it's an angel. And she just went, yeah. Sat down, I was like, sat down. She didn't talk to me for the rest of the class. So it's great, man.
Yeah, you made her look like a fool.
Made her look a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She probably cried that night. So
I mean, to be fair, she's probably earning a lot more money. I don't know. Do teachers earn a lot? College tutors earn a lot? College in UK.
I think they earn a lot, but probably not as much as they deserve.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, that's sort of that middle ground.
Yeah.
But I'm completely uninformed. I've got no idea, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, she humiliates him, sends him up to the board, and then his palms start bleeding.
Yeah.
So naturally, the agents arrive, Mulder and Scully, and they meet with a person who's already there looking after the case. I assume she's like some sort of childcare or social worker or something like that. And she claims that he suffered these injuries before, and actually at that point his father was not only blamed for it, but also he ended up being institutionalised in a sort of, I don't know what the correct term is.
Like a psychiatric
hospital, because he genuinely believes that his son is special, his son is blessed in the eyes of the Lord. And he also thought that Kevin was in danger from all these evil forces, which is why he locked him in a room, I think, trying to protect him. And that's
basically,
he ended up having to be taken away. Apparently, according to the agents, that Kevin still thinks he's the chosen one, and he's still in this same psychiatric hospital. And he thinks that evil forces will come to kill him as a part of a great war between good and evil. So what's your opinion on Kevin at this point? Like, are you sold on this religious angle?
I don't really know at this point, like, because we've seen a man be strangled and burnt at the same time, so there's got to be some kind of religious slant to it. And I don't think this kid was going to set up a big elaborate stunt. No. So you kind of sort of buy into it, I guess.
It pretty much tells you that he is stigmatic. These are sort of weird wounds that appear and disappear on his hands and on the sole of his feet. So he definitely is. I always wonder about these episodes. Do these episodes confirm that God is real? And if so, which God?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing. It's difficult. I think the reason they use sort of like the Catholic or the Christian God is because we have Scully, who can always play that sort of, you give the perfect chance in this situation to make Mulder the skeptic and Scully the believer. Yeah. Which I think was good. Throughout this episode,
I agree.
I thought it was great. I also thought that Mulder in this episode, but for that reason, I was like, wait, so you're happy to believe that like an alien is, doing these experiments on people and like all this stuff is happening. Yet as soon as they say, oh, he might be divine, touched by God, he's like, nah, bullshit. And it's like, hang on, where do you draw the line with this? You know what I mean?
Honestly, I've just got over that at this point, because I know anytime religion's touched, it's going to revert roles.
Basically, yeah.
And I kind of just got over it, and it's like, I'll just take it for what it is.
I've noticed as well, because they haven't really spoke about Scully's religious beliefs for a while, but the last few episodes, they've sort of they kept bringing it up. Like, not often, but they'll mention, like, how she's Catholic. And I get the feeling they were doing that to sort of sow the groundwork to say, oh, when this episode comes up, it's sort of been referenced before. Yeah.
Or they could still be sewing. It could be maybe a major plot point in the end of the series.
The aliens are God.
Yeah.
Man, what a twist.
Or, like, Scully's Jesus.
Man, that would be...
Imagine.
That would be mind-blowing.
That would be huge. That would be huge. But yeah, like, just going back to my original point, I do find it a bit strange that if these do confirm God is real, it feels weird there's not a bigger deal made of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then again, they sort of... This sort of stuff happens all the time, though, doesn't it? You hear about, like, demonic possessions and stuff like that, and you sort of hear about these stories, but no one sort of... There's always people who go, yeah, whatever then, you know what I mean? No matter how many people sort of are witness to these things, there's always skeptics who will see it as, no, it's still not proof until the big man literally comes down and goes, hello. Yeah. Until that happens, so I think you'll always have the people who don't believe it, so...
That's a good point. So. Speaking of big men coming down, Kevin's in a room with a load of children telling horror stories.
Oh, that's a very good segue.
Thank you. You didn't trust me.
I was wondering where it was going.
He pulled a face at the audience. He pulled a face throughout the entirety of that, thinking that I didn't know what I was talking about. It was a great segue.
It was.
And you've ruined it now, because now we've had to call the tough act.
Arguably, you ruined it yourself by calling it. I made a face. The listeners wouldn't have known. I could pull a face through the entire episode and they wouldn't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I'm not going to. That would be silly.
So Kevin's telling horror stories to all his friends. I mean, is he at a like a where is he now? It's like social workers, like I don't know.
But didn't
A
they
foster home?
Didn't they go to see his dad first?
Sorry?
Didn't they go to see his dad first?
Maybe.
If you've got it later on, that's fine. I just didn't know if.
No, I think I've gone through it, haven't I? Where he claims that his son is the chosen one, and
okay,
evil forces will come to kill him as part of a great war.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry about that. Speaking of big men,
Remember our friend Joe.
Right. Whilst he's telling the story, you see, like, as he's telling the story, sort of at the same time, something like this guy's walking up the corridor towards him,
sort of echoing what we're seeing, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And as he's saying, like, he steps forward him, walks closer and closer, and this guy gets closer and closer. Opens the door, scares all the kids away, and he basically takes Kevin. He abducts him. Do you recognise this guy?
He's from Hills Have Eyes, isn't he?
He is from Hills of Eyes. That's the only thing I knew him from. Oh no, I did know him from something else.
I have no idea what else.
Fill for time. Well, I have a quick look because I did want to.
Fill for time.
Fill for time, yeah.
One question I have actually, going back to Kevin's dad in the institute. Why is everyone so cryptic with their explanations as to what's happening? Like
I know, it's so annoying.
He was given this, it'll all come full circle, which obviously makes sense at the end. Which also I thought was a bit of a stretch when you see what it actually comes to. I was like, hang on. But yeah, it will all come full circle. And it's like, just say he'll be in the recycling plant later on.
I know.
I know.
I don't know. It's annoying. It's one of those things where they put it in as a device for the audience rather than what would actually happen.
It's this big mystery, really, to sort of set it up for later on so you can go, oh, that's what he actually meant. But yeah, in real life, you'd just be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Just tell me. It's simple.
Me. Yeah.
I've had a quick look at what he's from.
Yeah.
He's in quite a few things. The Hills of Eyes, Weird Science, The Devil's Rejects, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is the one I remember him from.
Okay, yeah.
Shaun of the Dead. No, not Shaun of the Dead. Shed of the Dead.
Shed of the Dead.
What's Shed of the Dead? I'm not getting into this.
It's like Shaun of the Dead, but with a
shed. Yeah. That's a rabbit hole I do not want to go down.
To be fair, I get the feeling he's like sort of. Do you know when somebody is in like quite a famous horror film, and then all they're ever in is like horror films that sort of degrade in quality as they.
Let's not beat around the bush, though. He is a scary looking guy.
He is a scary.
He's a very unique looking man. Watching this episode kind of made me feel a little bit sorry for him because he is actually a good actor.
Yeah.
He gives a good performance here, and I feel like looking at his career, it looks like it's panned out that way. He's always going to be given those roles of deformed man, deformed monster, or in Hills of Eyes, he plays
somebody who's like he's a mutant. Essentially.
Yeah, exactly. He's always going to have those roles, which it's a shame, but. Then again, I can't imagine him playing Jack and Titanic. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
It's a shame, but...
I do like with X-Files as well, they have a habit to set up a guy who is quite clearly strange looking, and you think, oh, is this guy the monster? And he immediately pulls the rug from under you and says, no, this is actually the good guy.
Yeah, it plays the expectations.
The monster is the normal looking guy who's, well, apart from his eyebrows, they were monstrous, I'll tell you that. But yeah, like they did it with what's it as well? Humbug.
Yes, yeah.
Humbug. You see there's a lot of people in that who are strange looking, who like you sort of instantly suspect that's going to be the bad guy, and it turns out, turns out to be a
mermaid.
A mermaid, yeah.
Basically.
I guess. What am I trying to think? Yeah, because they set it up as the what's it guy first, didn't they? The alligator man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Like,
yeah, it does play with the expectations, which again, it's a nice little trope that X-Files tends to go down. They put together like this sort of e-fit of it, which looks exactly like him. This guy needs a medal, whoever's doing these e-fits, because like...
I wouldn't have drawn that.
Yeah, imagine he's drawing that and goes, if I was that e-fit person, I'd be like, You know what? I've done something wrong here. Let me just scrunch this up and we'll do it again because like
I like Mulder's
he's smiling at everything.
Mulder's line, and we're looking for Homer Simpson's evil twin.
I think I missed that. I don't remember that.
I like that, and I was sort of thinking, when did the Simpsons thing actually happen? Then at this point,
Oh yeah,
I think it was a bit later on because it was like 97, was it, something like that?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
But yeah, I sort of saw this and I was like, they're planting the seeds here.
So yeah, we've got they go through all this sort of eat bit thing, and Kevin's mother actually recognises him, and she points him out as Owen Jarvis. Says he used to do yard work for the family in the past. So Mulder and Scully pay Owen a visit. He's at his place with Kevin. Kevin sort of knows now that he's not there to hurt him at all. Mm-hmm. When Mulder and Scully arrive, Kevin escapes out the window. So they apprehend Owen, and Owen's basically just trying to say to him, you know, I'm looking after the kid, I'm not trying to hurt him. Give him the same story. He says that he was asked by God to protect Kevin, and he actually criticises Scully for her faith not being as strong as his own. He thinks that if she believes in God, then she should trust God's word, which is coming through him. But again, how can you, if that was the case, then anyone could say anything. You know what I mean? And you'd have to believe
just believe them, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't agree with that so much, but she does take it to heart because later she starts taking signs as gospel that it must be through her.
Pardon the pun.
Well, yeah, exactly. She actually takes on the role as protector. She believes that she's taking on the role of protector later on in the episode. So, I don't know whether that's because she had this sort of divine sort of feeling, or whether it's his words weighing heavy on her later on. I don't know. It can be taken both ways.
Maybe.
And then Owen jumps out the window head first.
Yeah, I like that. What a stunt.
He just stands up, hands tied behind his back, and just breaks a window with his head.
Face, yeah.
And then disappears. Yeah.
I like how the last few episodes we've been complimenting Mulder on his chasing abilities. And then he loses this guy in like 3 seconds flat, and he's like, "He's gone." Oh, damn! And it's like, what?
But like, he gets up. He's all like got glass in his head. He's bleeding down his face. And by the time Mulder gets down there, it's been like 3 seconds. This big giant man disappears.
Not to mention, he jumped head first, and it looks like he lands on his face from a 2nd-story building. He would have broke his neck.
Don't know how this happened. But the thing is, it's not like he's disappear down an alley. Yeah. It's a field. It's a wide open area, and it's the biggest man you've ever seen. Like, I don't understand how he did this, but maybe God helped. Maybe if he's really helping him.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, we then see Kevin, and he arrives at home to his mum, but is closely pursued by the same man who killed the priest, Mr. Eyebrows, as you probably called him.
He reminded me of, is it Michael, not Michael Winner? Who's that, like, there's a famous rich guy like him who has these, like, weird...
Oh, I don't know.
He used to be in, like, I'm sure he was, like, the warden of the prison in Bad Girls or something like that.
No, I don't know.
But I've got a vague recollection.
The warden of the prison in Shawshank Redemption, I say as well.
No. He's I know you're on about with him, but I can't remember. He's in loads of stuff, and he's like quite a...
But he has like really curly eyebrows, doesn't he?
There's a guy, and he's got like... He looks like an owl, basically, and that's what he reminded me of. I'll try and find a picture of him.
Okay. Well, whilst you're doing that, we'll talk about... Kevin hides from this attacker. Hides in a wash bin upstairs. But the guy finds him because as he's putting his hands up against the inside of the wash bin, he's actually started to bleed again. So the guy finds him, and just as he's about to kill him, Owen arrives and just tackles him, tells Kevin to run. We know Owen's got good intentions now because he's literally done what he said. He's protecting Kevin. To his own detriment, though, because this guy puts his hands around his throat and again burns his throat. Like, strangle burns. It's quite brutal the way it looks. Like, it genuinely does... The effects are amazing because it genuinely does look like his hand is literally burning the flesh off his... And
I mean, later on, when we see the autopsy, basically is that they've got such a tight grip that, he's burned his print into his hand.
We'll carry on to the autopsy. We also find that Owen's corpse is not decaying.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, or like, it's not going through the sort of, what would you call the process? The sort of...
Decomposition, isn't it?
Yeah, decomposition. It's not going through rigor mortis. The temperature's still staying the same. She mentions that it reminds her of incorruptibles, which are basically, again, in the Catholic religion, it's disciples of God. People who carry the message of God don't die the same way as other people do.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder's not having any of it. Tells her that, in his words, he's a strange person in real life, so he might decompose in a different way.
Didn't they say in this part as well that these incorruptibles are in the Book of Revelations?
Yes, they do. And I went like this.
Yeah. She asks Mulder to sniff the body as well, because there's a part where he smells of like elderflowers or something like that.
Yeah, the incorruptibles. It's not. I think it's just floral smells. Yeah. It's just smell of flowers. I actually enjoyed that bit because as you've got the sort of lightheartedness of Mulder, but on the flip side, like Scully genuinely, she looks afraid.
She looks shaken.
Yeah, like it's really hits out. And again, it could be the words of Owen, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it's one of those coincidence things again. You know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of coincidences racking up that it makes it hard to believe otherwise.
I wrote one line down to remind me of that part. I just wrote sniffing a stiff. So anyway.
There you go. So have you been reminded of it?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
It tells you all you need to know.
Brought it all back, yeah.
And like you said earlier, they also found the handprints on Owen's neck. And this time, it's actually printed in a fingerprint, which matched to a Mr. Simon Gates. They describe him as a rich and powerful executive. Okay, but we don't know much more about him other than that.
Was it earlier on that they said that a rich and powerful man would be trying to...
Yes, they did. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. To be fair, I didn't make a note of it at the first time I said it, because, it does make sense once you hear it, but they do mention that a rich and powerful man would be the one to sort of try and attack Kevin.
Yeah.
We then... I know that at some point in this part, Mulder makes a comment to Scully that Kevin's been seen in two places at once, which seemed like such a weird thing. I understand what they were trying to do, because Kevin has got this power to project himself.
I've never heard of this before.
No, it was done really strangely. Yeah. It didn't really make sense, but they needed it for the next scene for him to get out of trouble.
I forgot that was happening, and then when it did happen, I was like, "What?" I literally
wrote
twins. I was like, "Oh, are they twins?"
Yeah. That's the logical conclusion, and I think that's why they added that scene with Mulder.
Yeah.
But the problem is, the scene with Mulder doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah.
Because he says to Scully, "We've got to go. The care worker has been reported with Kevin. At the same time, his mother has been reported with Kevin." Who's calling up and saying, "I've just seen a care worker with Kevin"? Like, it's not newsworthy. Neither of those events are newsworthy. So why would anyone report it to him and give him the exact time of both sightings? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
No.
But I understand why they had to add that. Because like you said, if I were to watch that scene, I said the same thing as you. Oh, I think they're twins.
Yeah. I thought we were going to get this twist of, there's a twin or something like that. Yeah.
But it's not. It's just, from the looks of it, he can project himself. Which, okay. I suppose it gives a nice out to how he gets away from him.
Yeah.
But we've gone ahead of ourselves really quickly. He's travelling with his mother in a car. The car breaks down and Gates arrives, the pursuer, offers to help, but then they figure out pretty quick that he's not going to help her.
Yeah. As he opens the steaming valve with his bare hands.
With his bare hands, and then just holds it over the steam for effect.
Maybe he was showing off.
That would be a good party trick.
Yeah. If you could, I suppose.
Maybe we should try that at the wedding.
I mean, I'm not going to. Definitely not.
Once she becomes suspicious, he throws her to the ground, and this is where we see Kevin run off into the woods, and Gates goes running off, following him, but it's not Kevin. Kevin's still in the car, and him and his mother get into Gates' car. They drive off, but his mother's still quite. Well, I think she banged her head, didn't she?
Yeah, concussed from I think he threw her onto the ground, didn't he?
Yeah,
banged her head.
Really did throw her. She bounced off the ground, and she falls asleep whilst driving, and then they crash. What I almost forgot was. before she falls asleep, she plows right through gates.
Oh, yeah,
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, he takes a right
I
hit,
didn't write it in the notes, but like full on just... He wipes out completely. It's just all over the shop.
His demonic powers kept him going.
I know. Well, he doesn't seem hurt afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they do crash, and I think she actually dies.
Yeah, she does. I was surprised that like they just went straight to her. Like, that the mom just.
Well, they don't really show it, do they? I think there's just one throwaway line from Kevin where he says, "It's my fault she's dead."
Yeah.
But like they don't even mention the fact that she's dead for the rest of the episode.
No.
So yeah. Scully tells Kevin that she'll protect him. She's taken on that protector role again, be it through some sort of divine message that she's received or just her own sort of self-doubt. Mm-hmm. So they bring him to a hotel. They refuse to give him to a foster home. They said we're going to bring him home, well, to a hotel with us. She gets him ready for a bath and notices that he's getting more scars on his body that he wasn't there at the crash site.
Yeah. I like Mulder in this part. He's sort of a bit... Well, you can tell he's joking, but he just says, "You never run a bath for me."
Yeah. Well, would this be allowed? Just two agents taking a kid into custody? Surely there'd be rules against this.
I mean, if they... I don't know, yeah.
I feel like there'd be rules against this.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. But,
it's a TV show.
Why not? Yeah, exactly. I don't get caught up with stuff like that. I like to point them out, just to have a conversation about them. But yeah, it makes no difference, really. As Mulder and Scully are sort of talking about like these injuries on his body, they actually hear a bit of commotion in the bathroom, and they find that the window's open and the bars outside the window have been burned, open. Yeah,
bent,
exactly. They've been red hot, so they're malleable. So they've opened up, and obviously the implication is Gates has taken Kevin again.
Yeah.
I should probably also mention before we move on that whilst he's been taken, Scully's quite upset at Mulder. She's having a sort of go at him for what you said before, his unwillingness to believe anything religious and then complete willingness to believe anything else supernatural.
Yeah. I haven't said anything until now because I haven't been sure. And I'm still not sure.
Sure of what exactly?
How Kevin was able to be in two places at once, just like St. Ignatius was able to do in the Bible.
That was in the Bible. That's a parable. It's a metaphor for the truth, not the truth itself. Why didn't Kevin conveniently bilocate when Owen Jarvis abducted him from the shelter?
How is it that you're able to go out on a limb whenever you see a light in the sky, but you're unwilling to accept the possibility of a miracle, even when it's right in front of you?
I wait for a miracle every day. But what I've seen here has only tested my patience, not my faith.
What about what I've seen?
I mean, we could talk about this, but to be fair, I feel like we've had like the same conversation over and over again, and we spoke about it early on in this episode. I kind of just... Yes, you can criticise it a little bit, because it doesn't really make sense for Mulder's character, but it adds this nice dynamic to it, and I understand why they do it. So.
Yeah, they do to mix it up a bit, I think, because I imagine you'd just get a bit bored every week.
Yeah.
If every week it was going to be something that Scully just doesn't believe. And it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, what are you... But if you give this sort of mix-up, then at least you can believe that they both sort of have their things that they sort of believe in more, I guess.
Yeah. So this leads to Scully and Mulder desperately trying to find this Gates with Kevin. Mulder theorises that he gets some information that they might be at an airport. They've seen the car, so that's where they should go. After a conversation with his dad, well, he's kind of drugged up a bit. They've
upped his dose, so he's just completely out of it.
Nonsensical, isn't it? So all she's got to go on is the previous conversation, which is the... What was it again? Follow the circle to find the truth?
He said you need to come full circle to find the truth.
And then she looks to her right and she sees the recycling symbol on a bin and remembers that he owns a recycling plant. Yeah. And so she decides to take it upon herself to go there on her own whilst everyone else checks out this airport.
I at this point, I was like, I guess it makes sense, but it's just such a stretch to go to. How did he know that it was a recycling plant?
And he happens to own it.
Yeah.
And it's in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Jerusalem, Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it does make sense when you put it all together, if you believe in that.
It makes sense, but it didn't make me feel like... Do you know, sometimes you have these mysteries and you go, oh man, that's like, they've sort of...
It all fits together.
It all fits together. This case, it all fits together, but the picture you're looking at is a turd. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, well done, I guess.
Yeah, it all worked to his plan,
Yeah.
apart from if the bins hadn't been taken out that day.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Scully just never saw it, do you know what I mean?
That's the thing. I'm not even like angry about like, but it's really specific. It's just not very good.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I didn't think it worked. Yeah, like I said, you could tell they wrote it in just so they could get to the ending.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it's just part and parcel of it, isn't it? So yeah, anyway, coming sort of towards the last scene now, Scully arrives at the recycling plant. There's like a little bit of a chase where she finds Gates with Kevin. Gates is about to kill Kevin, but then when she turns up, he puts him over his shoulder, runs off. And Gates tells Kevin multiple times that he must die for the new age to come. Then he grabs him over his shoulder and he attempts... I'm guessing he just sort of feels hopeless because he can't get away. So he just jumps into this shredder.
I think his aim is to take them both down with him.
That's definitely his aim. His aim is to kill Kevin. How did he mess this up?
I know.
How do you mess this up? Like...
A grown-ass man, like, with all the weight that he could carry behind him, launching himself fully into there, somehow couldn't... Oh, no! He's grabbed onto the bars.
Because as Scully looks over, she sees the blood and the flesh of Gates flying around.
I mean, cool effect. I like that.
Yeah,
like,
the industrial shredder. And then as she looks down further, she sees Kevin hanging on.
Yeah. This reminded me so much of the ending of... Spoilers for... I mean, it's a game that's been out for ages. Heavy Rain. Do you ever get to the end of Heavy Rain?
Yeah, it is very similar to Heavy Rain, yeah.
I because of the setting of everything, and I just thought, like, you know, with this kid being kidnapped, I thought, maybe he got the inspiration from this, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean... it's so just... I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
He would have been much better off just throwing the kid.
Yeah. I mean, he could have, if he just went like that.
Yeah, and if the kid grabs on, you smack his hand.
Yeah, I mean, he's...
It's just no, I don't know.
Satan's helpers are terrible.
I mean, I'm saying all of this. My fiance turned around to me after listening to the last episode or the last few episodes of the podcast, and she because I don't like. She listens to it every week. She enjoys the podcast, and she actually watches along with X-Files. She's watching it for the first time too, and she listens to our podcast as a companion piece, which is quite cool. And she really enjoys it. But the one thing I always ask of her is don't listen to it while I'm there, or at least put headphones in, because it feels weird. Me, Jem, and then Jem listening to another me. Like, it just feels a bit weird and really, like, self-conceited. Yeah. So we're lying in bed and Jem's listening to the podcast whilst I'm, like, just on my phone. And she turns around to me and she goes, obviously she's heard about the baby experiments. And she goes, what is wrong with you? I was like, no, it's just a scientific experiment.
I showed it to Tash, and she just said, well, the baby would die instantly.
Yeah, Jem said the same. Maybe, I mean, I feel like I came across much worse, and I can only blame editing.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about.
It just seemed, I'm not blaming you, Luke, it just seemed a little more ominous when I listened to it back.
Not a clue. Don't know what you're talking about.
So yeah, anyway. After this whole debacle, 2 days later...
It was a debacle.
Yeah. Scully says goodbye to Kevin, and Kevin tells Scully that he'll see her again. And she checks his hands, and his hands are fully healed. He no longer has the holes through them. And Scully, before going back with Mulder, says she has some errands to run, so she goes to church, where she goes into a confessional. And she says it's the first time in 6 years that she's confessed, and she just wants to... she doesn't even want to confess. She just she goes into talk, and she tells them, like, what's happened, asks about if God is really there, and if he's speaking to her. Because her partner doesn't see any of the signs and he believes anything. And so the priest, I always get confused, is it priest, is it vicar, I'm not sure.
I think it's priest, it's Catholic, yeah.
Okay, so priest. So the priest turns around to her and says, maybe your partner... I mean, I do like this, actually.
I like this ending scene a lot.
Maybe your partner doesn't see it because he's not meant to see it. If the message is meant for only you, then that's why only you can see it, and God told you what you needed to know to do what you needed to do. Which I thought was actually quite a nice way of getting around some of the common complaints we have, because that would make sense. That is why Mulder wouldn't be able to see it, because it literally, that message, no matter how blatant it may be, it's not meant for him, so he shouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah.
But Scully takes some comfort in this, and then also gets quite scared at this, because the last line of it was, it makes me feel scared, and he says, why? And she says, because I'm scared of the thought that God is speaking and nobody's listening. Which is, I mean, it's quite deep. Especially if you're a religious person, I can imagine that can be quite a haunting thing to think.
Yeah, that maybe you're right, but the world doesn't care.
The world doesn't care, and everything's going downhill because no one believes God is real, but no one believes it. But yeah, that was the end of the episode. What did you think this week?
Surprisingly, of all the stuff that we took the mick out of it for, I actually quite like this episode. There was some really good crises of faith scenes with Scully. I like that we got Mulder as a cynic again, and again it just made him extra arrogant in the scenes that we saw him in. I thought that the story and the villain was probably the weakest part of this episode.
The villain was definitely a weak point.
I felt like it didn't feel any more fleshed out than just a good versus bad kind of battle, and it just didn't feel that fleshed out really. But besides, if you take that away, I thought the actual acting from Gillian Anderson, with this sort of struggle between her faith and what she was seeing around her, I thought that was really good actually. I really enjoyed that. It wasn't my favourite episode, but I did quite enjoy it.
I'm a little bit more down on it than yourself. But on the flip side, I kind of take it for what it is. It's a monster of the week. It's kind of your run-of-the-mill episode, but I feel like it needs to be, especially after the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's quite a big few weeks that we've come off.
Exactly, and I feel like you can't have that constant high. You need to have sort of, not lows, but you need to have lulls. You need to have weeks where you just have your run-of-the-mill investigations, because otherwise you would just get so tired and you'd be so pent up constantly. It wouldn't work. So I understand why it's here. I understand what the reason is. I just get a little bit... it's the run-of-the-mill. I said to you before we started, it just felt like we'd go to a place, they'd get into a scrap. We'd go to another place, they'd get into another scrap. We'd go to another place, they'd get to another scrap. It's fine. And I feel like that works when you've got a really compelling villain. But when, like I said, with this villain, I just didn't feel like he had any charisma, really.
I thought the villain and the actual story around what was happening with the boy and that was actually quite weak. I didn't really enjoy that, but yeah.
If you could guest star on X-Files, would you be a villain? I think I'd be a villain,
No, I'd want to be a scientist in one of the FBI labs or something. I'd want to be what was his name? Pendrell.
Yes.
I want to be Pendrell's mate.
Oh, do you? Okay.
His lab assistant.
No, I'd like to be a villain. I think they're the most fun roles to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway.
Luke's production note.
Revelations was written by Kim Newton and directed by David Nutter, making it his final episode of The X-Files. Nutter decided that after the episode, he wished to pursue different things, and that the series was in excellent hands with fellow directors Rob Bowman and Kim Manners. Which we, I think we see a lot of their stuff, and we've seen a lot of their episodes this series, actually, Kim Manners and Rob Bowman.
I feel like, to be fair, even though what we said at the beginning of the episode, I feel like he's kind of had his fair go at pretty much every type of episode he could want.
Yeah.
At some point, what is there left to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Unless you're in charge of the mythology episodes where you've got this overarching story over 10 years. With Monster of the Weeks, there's only so much you can do.
It also depends on how much investment. I mean, you've got so Chris Carter obviously is going to be heavily invested because he created the show. But if these aren't your creations, you're directing them, you sort of have to think how much attachment. And don't get me wrong, I get the feeling he has a lot of attachment to the episodes he's done. But the series as a whole,
maybe not.
Maybe he's not, but who knows? Actor Kenneth Welsh appears in the episode as the demonic Simon Gates. Don't know if that's confirmation. But,
I think he is a demon, let's be honest.
Yeah,
He
probably,
can burn people with his hands.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Welsh had previously appeared with Duchovny in the critically acclaimed 1990 serial drama Twin Peaks.
Oh? Did you recognise him?
I know.
Because you've watched Twin Peaks, haven't you?
Not all of it, no.
Oh, okay.
I've only watched the first series.
I think we've been through this, yeah. I don't know why. I'll tell you what it is. You're the only person I know who's watched Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
And so I hear Twin Peaks and I'm like, Luke's the expert.
No, I've watched the first series.
Yeah,
and I sort of watched bits of the second, but the second one was a lot longer than I expected because the first one's I think it's like 6 episodes. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. Next one, 20. I was like, what? Where did that go? And apparently, what's his name? David Lynch doesn't direct all of the episodes in the second series, and it's very apparent the ones that he doesn't direct. So.
I've heard it's very hot and cold going into it.
Apart from the third series, which I hear is David Lynch just all the way through, and it's just, if you don't like David Lynch, don't bother, because it's full on David Lynch weirdness. But
that's the thing for me. I do want to watch it. It is on my to watch list, but I've heard how mad it is and how crazy and sort of, not in the sense of just like mysteries, but also in the sense of like just getting your head around it. And I feel like I would need to be in the right headspace to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's one... Like, there's a lot of TV shows out there where you can just pop on, start watching it, and then get hooked.
Yeah.
Like, for example, let's just take one example. Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I reckon, if you said to me... you've seen Stranger Things, haven't you?
I've watched them.
Yeah. So, if you said to me and you'd never watched it and you went, I'm thinking about Stranger Things, do you think I should give it a shot? Definitely. Pop an episode on, guarantee you'll be hooked and you'll watch it the next 2 weeks. Perfect. If I was then to say to you, I've never watched Twin Peaks, should I watch it? I don't think you'd say, yeah, watch an episode and see what you think. It's one of those where I've got to be in the right headspace to sort of really just sort of, you know what I mean, get into it.
There's some stuff as well where it's just more difficult to recommend. Stranger Things is... Don't get me wrong, it's very good, but it is quite popcorny, you know what I mean? Like, it is... so you can sort of...
It's definitely a universal language, for sure.
But, like... If you sort
Game of Thrones never used to be.
Yeah.
Up until, like, it got popular and then it became. Because dragons and zombies and whatnot wasn't in when it started.
Always blows my mind that, like, that became the biggest TV show.
It's mad, really.
Because people used to take the piss if you ever had anything with, like, that was, like, mildly fun. If you were ever reading a fantasy book, they'd always look down on you for reading that. And now it's the biggest thing ever.
Yeah, so. Strange.
But, like, stuff like that. Like, there's some stuff where you'll... If you ask, would I like it? Yeah, would I recommend it? I'm trying to think of like an example, but yeah, David Lynch stuff's probably up there. Like if you said, should I watch Eraserhead? And I'm like,
yeah,
it's up to you. You might hate it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those where
I find comedies for me is the worst thing.
Comedy's the hardest thing to recommend. I think.
And because it's that awkwardness. Have you ever put a comedy film on with friends around
and they haven't enjoyed it
and they don't find it funny? And it's like. It's just this weird awkwardness where at some point, I don't know what's more awkward. Is it more awkward for the person that's sat there pretending to laugh at things they don't find funny? Or is it more awkward for the person who's laughing and going, but like, you watch the film, do you ever do this? Sorry, I'm going to go off
I've been in both of these situations and I don't know which one's worse here.
Do you ever do this where you put a film on and you say, this is really funny, you need to watch this, so you put the film on, your friend's not finding it funny, and you're laughing, but in your head, you're like, this isn't funny. This was hilarious when I watched it 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Why isn't this funny anymore?
Yeah.
But you feel like you need to laugh to keep it going.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's the worst. So I stay away from comedies in general now. I'll always say, like, me and you tend to be on the same sort of level most of the time.
That's the thing. There's stuff that I know that I like that I'll never recommend to you. Because I just know you wouldn't be interested in. But then there's some stuff like, I think, when you know somebody good enough. So know somebody well enough. You can sort of gauge it a bit better. Like if I'd met somebody for the first time, I wouldn't suggest Stuart Lee to them. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, no, because we've known each other so long, I know that's a cup of that's a cup of tea up your street. I don't know. My references are just all over the shop. But yeah, like that kind of thing would be, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. You'd like it. Is what I'm trying to say, basically.
I think you can get a sort of rapport with someone where you can figure out what their interests are.
But still, it is still sketchy because like, there's sometimes where you think, oh, they'll love this, and then it's just a bit off the mark.
Yeah. So in general, I just tend to stay away from recommending comedies.
Yeah.
If I find stand-ups are the worst. If I find something that I find funny, I just sort of keep it to myself. And I'll say to, like, if I'm talking about it, I'll say to you, there was a stand-up on, found that I really liked it, I really enjoyed it. That's it. Stop there.
You have to go in soft. Like, I think with recommendations sometimes, just go, oh, you might enjoy this, because that'll, like, I think if you you have much more to lose if you go, you're gonna love it, watch it now.
Yeah.
Like, you got much more, like, because the expectation is so high. Whereas if you just go, you might enjoy it. It's just a little seed of like, oh, I'll give it a go. And then if they enjoy it, then back to the production notes. The episode featured a role reversal with Dana Scully, the believer, and Fox Mulder, the skeptic, which David Duchovny called a refreshing change of pace. Nutter believed that by examining faith, the show's creators to explore the nuances and seeming contradictions of Scully and her worldview. It seems weirdly written, this does, but I think grammatically does make sense.
Yeah.
Basically, shows Scully's faith.
Do you think David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson have stock answers whenever they're asked about these?
Yeah, I do wonder when you see like these like notes and stuff. It's from like questions and stuff. Like, I wonder if it's like at a panel where they're just like,
yeah, because this isn't new. Like, they've done this episode at least 7 times.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, one of my favourite episodes, Beyond the Sea, is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's that reversal of believer and skeptic. Do you know what I mean? So it's not the first time they've done it.
Now this one, I guess it's true because it's written down.
It's gotta be true.
Gotta be true. But it says the episode was the first to discuss Scully's faith in depth. I suppose it's the first time we see her in a confessional booth and explicitly saying she is Catholic, you know what I mean?
Yeah, rather than just having faith.
Yeah,
a specific faith. Maybe.
I guess, yeah. Series creator Chris Carter later emphasised that the theme of the episode was more on personal belief rather than organised religion, noting the episode deals with faith, not religion with the capital R or Catholicism with a capital C. I hate that word. It seems because I keep going to say Catholicism.
Yeah.
Catholicism.
Catholicism sounds like an Alton Towers ride.
The producers for the series were cautious about presenting an overly religious episode of the series for fear of pissing certain people off. But according...
Sorry to interrupt. That's what I thought. Because this is what I was trying to say before, but I didn't know whether it had any relevance, but it sounds like they have the same fears. By saying that she's Catholic, and then by having this thing happen to her, you can be arguing the fact that her God is real.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that mean in this world, Islam is wrong, or Buddhism is wrong, or, you know what I mean? Like, all these other religions in the world are wrong because she has proof that her religion is right.
I guess, but then again...
or doesn't it at least imply that?
Yeah.
I can understand why that would piss people off. I don't know.
And
it's just a strange...
Yeah, it implies it, but I don't know, like, there's still enough, like, wiggle room where you could say, like, it's not explicitly saying this is definitely 100%. It is still just a case of some divine entities doing this. But, I don't know, it's difficult because, like...
But again, you shouldn't let that fear put you off telling a personal story. And if your character of Scully is Catholic, then this is her personal experience, not necessarily... Again, Mulder doesn't believe it, so why should any of us? It's her personal experience of the events that are happening.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I completely... I'm on side. I did think it was a bold move to make it so much about her Catholic faith.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It certainly makes for an interesting story.
But according to Carter, the show handled it in such a way as to make it about miracle belief or lack of belief. So, he's sort of playing it off as it's not specifically that, I guess.
Hey, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, this is what's great about TV. This whole thing, there shouldn't be a taboo subject, as long as it promotes a discussion like this, where we can have a discussion and it promotes talking about it rather than keeping it taboo.
Yeah.
Then it's fair game for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put whatever you want on the screen. Let us discuss it. Let us find our own opinions. Let us promote that discussion, because I think that's important. And it doesn't necessarily mean that one thing's right or one thing's another, but if people are talking about it, people can make up their own minds.
Yeah.
And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's right.
That's the thing. There's nothing wrong. Like, some people, like, get a bit, like, defensive about stuff if you criticise anything they like. But I think everything in the world, like, anything can be presented in the way it wants to be presented, but nothing is exempt from criticism. You know what I mean? Like, in the way that it's presented as well. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about something, and basically they were saying that what they were talking about uses, like, really gratuitous... this is a completely left turn on it, but there's a scene where there's an implied sexual violence in it. It doesn't actually show you anything, but it sort of makes a case that, you know, and this person who does it, like, does this quite a lot. And the person who was leading the podcast made the point of, I don't want them to stop doing it. I'm never going to say, don't ever do this again. You need to stop doing it. But I'm also never going to not say that it's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, of course.
And it's... And I sort of like that, like, softer approach to stuff, because I think these days there's people are too quick to say, stop it, ban it, like, we need to not shut this all down. And it's like, I understand people, like, can get sensitive to certain subjects and topics and stuff like that now. But also, is it better to sort of have this, something that's wrong, like, displayed, and then everyone can go, this isn't the way you should do it, this is the way you should do it. Because... I don't know, I think it educates people more if you can do that rather than just
censor it.
Because that pisses people off as soon as you do that.
I completely agree with you. I don't believe the right course of action is to ignore it.
If you just take it away without explanation as to why, that leads to people getting annoyed, not learning as to why it's wrong, and then doubling down on it, saying, no, we should be able to do... That leads to, like, these daft arguments where you have 4chaners, like, saying, no, we can have all this, that, and the other. And it's like... Whereas if you say, leave it in there and say, actually, let's talk about why this is wrong. Maybe...
Promote that discussion.
Maybe they'll ignore it anyway, but there's going to be some people who will listen to it. And I think it's more...
Yeah, and again, like... We've had
sound very sandboxy. Or soapboxy, not sandboxy.
We've had this discussion in the past, though. How far do you take it? Like, it's getting to the point now, especially in modern day TV, where with the outlaw on Twitter over everything, where bad guys can't do bad things.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the quintessential points I made to you was, at some point, there's going to be people arguing about a World War II, maybe not documentary, but dramatisation, where they don't want to see Nazis killing Jews, right? Now, if you don't show that, then how can you say that it's happened? You know what I mean? Like, you're almost doing that whole, I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I mean? It's like almost a disservice.
You're sort of papering over the suffering that they suffered.
Yeah.
To sort of, you're sort of saying...
To appease people who are offended by it, and which is like...
Yeah.
This happened.
This happened. Yeah. That's the thing, yeah.
But you get into a stage now where, because people don't want to see it, I don't know, it just feels weird. It just feels like, well, it goes back to what I said before. It feels like the correct way to deal with this is show it in the most respectful way you can, and promote that discussion to, I mean, how many lives have been saved by someone committing suicide on TV, and then that encouraging people to go and find help.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because it promotes that discussion on, well, this could happen and this does happen to men or women. And you like sort of, yourself. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. It sort of opens it up a bit more for people to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's nowhere near the way it should be now, but 10, 20 years ago, you wouldn't catch any man admitting that he felt depressed or that he cried at night or that he was having suicidal thoughts, because it was taboo. It wasn't the right thing to do.
You sort of just had to knuckle down and get on with it.
Yeah, man up. That was the key phrase, man up, because that's what you had to do. That's what the society expected you to do. That, to a large, basically, that has largely been blown apart by media, by TV, by film, saying, you know what, it's actually, this macho bullshit doesn't actually matter. Yeah. It's okay to be like that. Yeah. And people are talking about it more, and it is saving lives because that conversation has been opened up. If you start shutting that conversation down again, aren't we taking a backward step?
Yeah. Just because it's there's a potential to offend. Yeah. I've never been subscribed to that, like, belief that you shouldn't try and offend people. You shouldn't worry about offending people. And it's like, don't intentionally try to offend people.
Of course not.
But if you're presenting something which is, offensive, but is presented in a certain way, surely that's better than, just pretending like bad things don't exist.
I agree. We've gone way too deep on the notes.
I thought that.
Let's get through these.
What were we talking about? Like, pissing people off with religion?
Probably, yeah.
Anyway. According to co-producer Paul Rabwin, the episode had to be rewritten a number of times, including while the episode was in production. The producers felt it was difficult to sell the concept of religious magic, for instance, by featuring bilocating, and that's the twin thing that we were talking about earlier, which it was difficult to sell as a concept. I just didn't pick up on it the first time, so... The episode went through a detailed editing process which included additional tweaks to the script. These changes required actor Kevin Zegers to fly back to Vancouver and film reshoots and additional scenes. The producers claimed to be in awe by the way the episode turned out after all the additional work had been done. Kevin Zegers, I think, is the boy's dad.
Oh, okay.
I think. Don't quote me on it. I'm sure I read it somewhere that was that guy. Several of the scenes were altered or cut during post-production, such as the scene with the priest. The producers were unhappy with the voice of the actor, so they recorded a voiceover and mixed it in during post-production, which is surprising because the priest is this guy who's renowned for screaming orders in Full Metal Jacket. So it's weird that didn't come out, but I guess it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
A scene with Kevin's father speaking in tongues, as well as quoting the famous Klaatu Barada Nikto line from the day the Earth stood still, was cut in the final edit.
Okay.
There we go. That's the end of the production notes.
Yeah, definitely promoted some interesting discussion there.
Yeah, we went really long.
So, I forgot it's me hosting the episode. So, I think that's it for this week. I think we've gone on more than enough. We went way too long there.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll just end it there. And next week, do you have the title of next week's episodes?
Yeah, it's called War of the Coprophages, I think.
I definitely did not want to say that word, so I'll leave you to that one next week. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.